Colonel, no, it can't be. Konami. That evil corporation, Konami. This can't be happening. How dare they do this to me? Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? It is me, Mr. 4K Upscaler. You're going to be watching episode 2. This is my episode 2 of Nostalgia Gaming Commentary. So basically what I do on Nostalgia Gaming Commentary is I walk you through these old classic games, the games that I grew up with, the games that I been captivated and impacted so much that I have to share these games. For those of you who are not born in my generation, for those of you who are, you know, in your early teens or late teens and you haven't played this, obviously you weren't even born when this game came out. So I like to walk you through a memory lane and show you what gaming was all about back then and just how awesome it was to be a gamer back then. Those were the great times. For me personally, these were the great times. These were the times for me when I felt that being a gamer meant something, something great. There was a greatness about being part of this evolving gaming evolution. And, this is just my opinion. Look, guys, every generation has their own greatness and their positives and negatives. For me, this was my generation. So I'm kind of like speaking from my perspective, okay? So keep in mind, everything I say here, it's my opinions, it's my thoughts, it's my perspective. I'm not trying to tell you that this is how you should feel, this is how you should think. This is just me telling you how I felt when I first bought this game. Now, before we start watching the video and listening to the introduction of the game, how I find out about the Metal Gear. Let me tell you a backstory on how I find out about the Metal Gear. I was a Nintendo 64 user and Sega Genesis. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I sold my Sega Genesis. I had Sega Saturn and Nintendo 64. So Sega Saturn and Nintendo 64. Okay, I played Zelda. I played the hell out of Zelda, okay? So I was like a heavy on Zelda. I loved that game. Okay? And then I happened to walk into a Target store. All right, this is back in 1998, right? There was no internet back then, okay? It's not like you had your cell phone where you can look and see, oh, look, newsflash, Sony's making a new console. So this was different time back then, okay? I was still using VCR tapes, cassettes, okay? And the only way you can find out what's going on in the gaming world is when you purchase magazines. You have to buy these gaming magazines. So I had no idea that Sony was working on a console. Honest, I had no idea that Sony was working on a console because, there was no internet back then. There was no way for me to know whether or not Sony is going to make a console. I mean, I knew who Sony was. It was a big brand. They made great televisions, stereos, other appliances, other stuff, Walkmans, Anyway, I walked into a Target, looking for some new Nintendo 64 games, right? I walk into a Target in 1998, and right next to Nintendo 64, I see this thing called PlayStation. I thought maybe it was like a kiosk where you can play, different types of Nintendo 64 games. I said, what is this? And then I see a logo that said Sony. I asked the guy in the red shirt, I say, hey man, what's going on here? What is this? Sony? I said, Sony has gaming consoles? And the guy looked at me kind of funny, like, you didn't know? Well, I didn't know because obviously I was mainly focused on Nintendo and Sega. So I had no idea that Sony was working on this, okay? So don't judge me. I'm just telling you the honest truth on how I came across this game. So anyway, the guy in the red shirt in Target says to me, he was laughing because like, oh, you didn't know? And I'm like, no, I didn't know. So then he says and comes to me and says, comes up to me and says, "Hey, listen, dude. This is an older guy, a little bit older. Like he was older than me, sort of like in his mid 20s. I was younger, and he says to me, "Listen, dude, this right here, it's going to outsell Nintendo and Sega. This thing here is the real deal, man. This is the future." I don't know, maybe this guy was some kind of a gaming prophet, or maybe he was from the future, came back in the past. I don't know. I clearly remember his face. He had a long beard, these Coca-Cola glasses, man, these big gigantic glasses. It was a cool guy. And he says, his name might have been Sean, S-H-A-W-N, Sean, not S-E-A-N. I think Sean with the H and W, Sean. And he says, "Listen, you want to try it out?" I say, "You should definitely give it a try. It comes packed with a bunch of demos inside." And here's the deal. Back then, I had cash. And I walked into a store, and I had money. I had 2 jobs. I was going to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale College, learning to study the video production and all that stuff. So I had cash. I had honestly, I had like $600 in my pocket. And he said to me, "So, $2.99, would you like to buy it?" There was only one. Dude, he said, "There's only one left." I said, "If you don't purchase this right now, I cannot tell you when we're going to get another shipment." And I was like, "Oh, shit." I'm thinking to myself, you know what, man? Yes, I have Nintendo. Yes, I have Nintendo 64. And I have Sega Saturn. But since I have $600 and I got money to spend, I was like, the hell with it. Why not? So I said to him, "Hey, listen, man, let me have it, because I don't know when I'm going to have another opportunity to purchase this console." So it was meant to be. It was meant to be for me to walk into a Target with $600 and purchase this. Did I buy any games? I didn't buy any games because he told me there is a demo disc inside with a bunch of games. I was like, okay, there's a demo disc. Let me first see what this thing is all about before I start investing into this console. And I kept my receipt just in case I want to return it or something, right? It was a return policy. It was like 30 days back then. So I grabbed it and paid for it, took it home, unwrapped it. It was in this little gray box, and you open it, and the tray pops open. And I was like, wow, they're using CD-ROMs? It was like a little dark blue a CD-ROM. So anyway, I plug it in. I use my composite cables, red, white, and red, white for the audio, and then yellow for the video. I plug it in. However, I did have S-Video television. I had S-Video television. I plugged it in, and I hooked it up to my RCA, my RCA S-Video input, and I got the signal. There was that Sony logo, that comes out, and I boot up my memory card. I did buy a memory card, and then I take this demo disc. I open up this demo disc. I put it inside, and the first thing I saw, sorry about that, I just lost the, I just lost my signal here. Sorry about that. So the first thing I saw was the tactical espionage action Metal Gear. It really says like tactical espionage action. And I was like, let me go try this out. So I click on this demo, and I see this first thing that I saw was Konami showed up. And then, you seeing the submarine, and inside the submarine, you see all these Navy personnel. And then there's this guy that's talking in the background. And there's this other dude that sounds like Kurt Russell, like a Snake Plissken, like in an Escape from New York, Escape from LA. And I was like, Kurt Russell is doing the voiceover for this game? Like, really? Honestly, I thought it was Kurt Russell. I had no idea who David Hayter was. I mean, I had no clue. You know, it's just like he had that voice like a Snake Plissken. All right. Why don't you reach for that gun? You know, like he had that like that Snake Plissken deep voice. Yeah, reach for that gun. Why don't you make my day? Go and grab it. Grab that gun. You know, like he had like that raw, deep voice. And then I remember when I was playing it, I was like, is Kurt Russell in it? And of course, later on, I find out, you know, that it wasn't Kurt Russell. It was the this guy named David Hayter, and I learned more about David Hayter. Obviously, you know, the rest is history. So sorry that I had to spend 10 minutes, but remember the whole point of this episode is for me to tell you my experience and how I got into this game and how I became a fan of Metal Gear. And the obsession that I had with the Metal Gear, you know, as you can tell, I use Solid Snake voiceovers here and there in my videos, and I do a bunch of skits and whatnot. So what I'm basically doing here is I'm commentating and walking you through it in 1 hour, letting you know my experience and why this was such a significant experience for me back in those times, and why I love this game so much. Even to this day, I don't think there's any other game that can top what this game has done for me. And what got me into PlayStation was this game. So if it wasn't for Konami, if it wasn't for Hideo Kojima, maybe I would be late in the game for PlayStation, maybe PlayStation 2. But because of Metal Gear, it's what really got me into PlayStation. Honestly, I haven't even touched my Nintendo 64 after I got hooked on this and Metal Gear and Resident Evil. I barely touched my Nintendo 64. Seriously, I barely touched it after that. Maybe GoldenEye was the one game I was still playing with my friends on the LAN network, locally. But I haven't touched, other than that, I haven't touched my Nintendo 64. This game really got me hooked, man. So let's go ahead. Let's start the beginning of the game here. Sorry that I had to spend 12 minutes, giving this introduction. But remember, the whole idea here is for me to tell you my experience with Metal Gear. Tactical espionage action. So let's go ahead and let's listen to the first introduction here. And let's look at the interview between Campbell and Solid Snake, preparation for the mission. So let's go ahead, let's do that really quick. I'm gonna shut up here for a minute. You guys watch the beginning of this. Actually, we'll be watching this together.
The nuclear weapons disposal facility on Shadow Moses Island in Alaska's Fox Archipelago was attacked and captured by next-generation special forces, being led by members of Foxhound. They're demanding that the government turn over the remains of Big Boss, and they say that if their demands are not met within 24 hours, they'll launch a nuclear weapon. You'll have two mission objectives. First, you're to rescue DARPA Chief Donald Anderson and the president of Armstech, Kenneth Baker. Both are being held as hostages. Secondly, you're to investigate whether or not the terrorists have the ability to make a nuclear strike and stop them if they do.
What's the insertion method?
approach the disposal facility by sub.
And then?
We'll launch a one-man SDV. After the SDV gets as close as it can, dispose of it. From there on, you'll have to swim. High-tech Special Forces Unit Foxhound. Your former unit, and one that I was a commander of.
So they're still around.
There are 6 members of Foxhound involved in this terrorist activity. Psycho Mattis, with his powerful psychic abilities. Sniper Wolf, the beautiful and deadly sharpshooter. Decoy Octopus, master of disguise. Vulcan Raven, giant and shaman. And Revolver Ocelot, specialist in interrogation and a formidable gunfighter. And finally, in charge of them, Foxhound's squad leader, Liquid Snake.
Liquid Snake?
The man with the same codename as you. The nuclear weapons disposal facility covers the whole island. I'll instruct you by codec after you reach your target.
Anyone going?
And you know, this first introduction on the demo, it's something that really grabbed me. It's something that really made me hooked into this game. And this is back in 1998, guys. 20 years ago. You got to remember, this was something I have never seen before. And this menu, you know, the way it was designed and everything, I really got hooked. It was impossible for me not to get hooked into this game. I even traveled all the way to Miami just to buy this game at the EB Games, Electronic Boutique Games. And I even paid $83 just to buy this game. Now let's go to the tapes and listen to the tapes here really quick. This is another cool addition that they have in this game, where you go watch the briefing tapes.
It's been a long time, Snake.
I should have known you were behind this, Colonel.
That's no way to greet an old war buddy, Snake.
What do you want from me?
I just invited you here so we could have a talk.
Invited? That's what you call sending armed soldiers after me?
Sorry if they were a little rough with you. But we've got a serious situation here. Only you can get us out of it.
I'm retired from Foxhound. You're not my commander anymore, and I don't have to take orders from you or anyone else.
You will take these orders. I know it.
Excuse me.
Who's this?
Dr. Naomi Hunter. She's chief of Foxhound's medical staff, and an expert in gene therapy.
Are you military?
No, civilian. I've been sent here from ATGC. Pleasure to meet you, Snake. Don't worry, this injection won't hurt a bit.
What's the shot for?
What's wrong? You don't like shots?
Snake, listen up. It all went down 5 hours ago. Heavily armed soldiers occupied Shadow Moses Island, a remote island off the coast of Alaska.
What soldiers?
Next Generation Special Forces, led by members of Unit Foxhound. They've presented Washington with a single demand, and they say that if it isn't met, they'll launch a nuclear weapon.
A nuclear weapon?
I'm afraid so. You see, the island is the site of a secret nuclear weapons disposal facility.
Foxhound hijacking a nuclear weapon?
Now you understand how serious the situation is. You'll have 2 mission objectives. First, you're to rescue the DARPA chief, Donald Anderson, and the president of Arms Tech, Kenneth Baker. They're both being held as hostages.
Those are some heavy-duty hostages.
Secondly, you're to investigate whether or not the terrorists have the ability to launch a nuclear strike, and stop them if they do. Any questions, Snake?
Questions? I haven't even said whether I'd accept this mission.
Well, you can make up your mind after you hear more about the situation.
You know, one of the cool and unique features in this game was these briefing tapes. And the funny thing is, when I first started playing this game, I didn't even realize that there was briefing tapes. I remember playing through, because I just wanted to start the mission. You know, when I first got this game, when I first bought it, I had no idea that there was briefing tapes, because I didn't bother going to the options to see if there was briefing tapes. But when I finished the game, I went back to the options. I saw that there was briefing tapes. It was pretty cool introduction, you know. This game to me was really a new evolution, like the new level of digital gaming entertainment. Everything up to this point, up to the Metal Gear, everything else was kind of playing safe. You know, the games were platformish, 3D-ish kind of. They were not nowhere near as anything like this. There was no game like this that was being portrayed as almost like a movie experience, you know. And I think the Metal Gear and Hideo Kojima with this game truly pushed that envelope of the new direction. And I think this is where Sony comes in. And this is another thing where a lot of my Xbox friends can't seem to grasp this reality and the fact that Sony pushed this envelope with Hideo Kojima, with Metal Gear, with Capcom, with Resident Evil, with all these games. Sony pushed this envelope and they wanted to be more adult, mature oriented gaming console community. And they did. They did exactly that. And there's no question about it that Sony pushed, like I said in my previous episode, they pushed gaming into a new evolution, like new evolution of experience in terms of how we play our games. You know, you look at Nintendo, they're still playing it safe. They're still playing their characters. Unfortunately, Sega Dreamcast had the opportunity with Dreamcast, but they quit. And it's sad that Dreamcast quit because of Sony. I think the CEO of the Dreamcast kind of screwed him over. All right, I don't think he knew exactly. The problem with Dreamcast wasn't Sega. I think the CEO of Sega was just looking for the money. He was just looking at the numbers. I don't think he was looking at it as a gaming perspective. And I think that's one of the biggest problems when you have CEO of Sega looking at in terms, Sega of America, looking at in terms of numbers and profit, but not looking at as a gaming community. This is why you should always have a CEO of the company be a gamer to run the gaming company. If you have a CEO running a brand just for a business perspective of it, looking at it just for the money profit, then that's not good. And here's another cool thing about these briefing tapes. You get to learn these characters. Nastasha Romanenko, she is the nuclear physicist, and she basically is a nuclear scientist, I'm sorry, and she is the one that's going to walk you through the comm. Another thing that was really great about Metal Gear is the fact that you can talk on the comm. You can talk and call anybody on the different frequencies, and you can talk to each other. So this is another cool feature that I haven't seen anywhere before in a game, period. I have never seen anything like this. And it's such a cool, unique idea that Hideo Kojima has introduced when you get stuck, you know, when you don't know what to do in the mission, you can always use the comm and call someone and talk to communication, talk through the this comm communication walkie-talkie system that you have, and you can change frequencies. You can also learn about these characters. You can spend actually an hour just talking to every and each individual character, talking to Colonel Campbell, talking to Naomi, talking to Mei Ling, Meryl. You can talk to all of them and learn more about them as you're talking on the comm. And that was another feature that I haven't seen before in the game. So everything that I saw and everything that I experienced on Metal Gear Solid tactical espionage action game, everything was fresh, everything was new, and everything was unique and original. Like, you know, it was like you were witnessing a birth of new era of something great. And Hideo Kojima gave birth to this game, and this game, I think, pushed. Let me put it this way: I think Hideo Kojima raised the bar. He raised the bar with this game, and then everybody else, all the other developers, got excited, and they felt like, hey, we need to push forward. We need to get it. Everybody else got inspired. I think Hideo Kojima is the inspiration, and was inspiration, and still is the inspiration for a lot of these developers. Because when it comes to me to think about who is the gaming god, it's not Gabe. Half-Life is way too overrated. Way too freaking overrated. Sorry, you PC elitists, but it's way too freaking overrated. All right? Just like Steam is way too overrated. All right? To me, the Spielberg of video games, the gaming god of video games, it's always going to be one and only Hideo Kojima. Kojima-san, Hideo Kojima. I don't think there's anybody else out there that can top that. Naughty Dog, it's inspired by Hideo Kojima 100%. Santa Monica Studios, it's inspired by Hideo Kojima as well. Every developer out there, it's inspired by Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima's been doing this for nearly 3 decades. 3 decades. Successfully. Anyway, let's continue listening to some more of these briefing tapes.
Benzedrine. It's a type of stimulant. It'll keep you alert and responsive for 12 straight hours.
That was quite a cocktail. Anything else in there?
Those nanomachines will also keep your codec's batteries charged up.
I guess I can call you when I'm ready to go on a diet.
You're welcome.
Chief of DARPA and the president of an arms manufacturing company. What business did they have at a nuclear weapons disposal facility?
The truth is that secret exercises were being conducted at the time the terrorist group attacked.
Must be extremely important exercises if those two were directly involved. Were they testing some kind of new advanced weapon?
I'm not privy to that information.
Do we know exactly where they're being held?
The DARPA chief has also been injected with a mini-transmitter. As you get closer, you should be able to pick up his location on your radar.
Do they really have the ability to launch a nuclear missile?
They say they do. They even gave us the serial number of the warhead they plan to use.
Was the number confirmed?
I'm afraid so. At the very least, they've got their hands on a real nuclear warhead.
Isn't there some kind of safety device to prevent this type of terrorism?
Yes. Every missile and warhead in our arsenal is equipped with a PAL, which uses a discrete detonation code.
PAL?
Permissive Action Link. The safety control system built into all nuclear weapons systems. But even so, we can't rest easy.
Why not?
Because the DARPA chief knows the detonation code.
But even if they have a nuclear warhead, it must have been removed from its missile. All the missiles on these disposal sites are supposed to be dismantled. It's not that easy to get your hands on an ICBM.
That used to be true. But since the end of the Cold War, you can get anything if you have enough money and the right connections.
And another thing I want to say is when you look at what Hideo Kojima did with this game, not only did he obviously create a fictional characters and fictional universe here, obviously, but even within this fictional universe and these fictional characters, he implemented a realistic code names for different military branches, different military departments. When you look at like Defense Department, like DARPA, okay, and then you look at the PAL system, okay, all of these things inside the game are actually true. DARPA does exist; they do have it. It's part of our defense national system. We do have DARPA. It's a defense organization here in the United States that basically has all these contractors with these private sectors like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and what they do is they work on these new technologies. They work on the like F-117s, F-22s, all sorts of different types of technologies for the Air Force, for the military, even for the Space Force. There's a new thing called the Space Force that was signed by President Trump, and this is something that's going to be implemented into the future called the Space Force. So everything you see on this Metal Gear, everything that's implemented into this game, it echoes the reality a little bit. Even though it's a fictional world, but he did inject some reality. And a lot of stuff that was shown on Metal Gear, which was surprising to me, was true. You know, you look at the DARPA, you look at the PAL system, even the nanotechnology. Now they're talking about even the augmented technology. Now it's actually being brought to reality, prosthetic legs and prosthetic robotic arms. And this is back then, 20 years ago. So was Hideo Kojima privy to some of the classified information or not? I don't know, but maybe he was. Maybe he was privy to some of this classified information that back then was classified. You know, they were working on all this new tech, this new technology, or maybe he was privy to the information to implement it into a game where the gamers won't know the difference whether or not this technology exists or don't exist, or if it's in the works. So it's pretty interesting. This is another reason why I got even more hooked into this game. First of all of these characters. I mean, look at these characters. The Big Boss, the history of Big Boss, the mystery of Big Boss back then with the first game, the Liquid Snake, the clone brother, twin Snake that he has, and why that took place, the Fox die, and then Dr. Naomi and her place into this. I mean, there's so much. There's so much to be learned. There's so much to be explored. And I remember when I got this game, when I bought this game, I couldn't put the controller down. Honestly, I had to call in sick a few times. I didn't even, I think I missed a few classes when I was going to the Art Institute of Video Production. I missed a couple of classes. It was a biology class, whatever. They made you take a biology class, even though it has nothing to do with video production. Why'd I have to learn about dissecting the frog, right? So I remember skipping a couple of classes because of this game. That's how impactful and that's how captivating this game was for me. And like I said, this is 20 years ago, guys. What I'm trying to come across a point here, it's for you. I want you to let this sink in. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. Let this sink in. What I'm going to say, the following. This was 1998. 21, 22 years ago. Okay? Long time ago. 2 decades ago. And I haven't experienced, and no one else has experienced anything like this in terms of video games department. No one has experienced anything like this. And when this game came out, I was just hooked. I mean, it was impossible for me not to get hooked. Even my brother got hooked. We played together, man. There were so many elements in this game that I think even to this day. And remember, guys, these are my opinions. You know, my opinions should not inflict to your opinions and your thoughts. I'm just here to give you my thoughts and experience that I had with this game. I'm walking you down the memory lane and I'm telling you what impact this game had on me. But I personally have not seen anything other greater or bigger than what Hideo Kojima brought with this game. This game sold millions of copies. It made millions and millions of dollars. Okay, it was a big success. Sold bunch of copies. There's no questions. PlayStation 1. The reason why it sold so crazy was because of this game. I was just ridiculously. It was selling out like crazy. And this game was really hard to find. You couldn't even find a trade in. Is there like a used copy of this game? No one traded in this game. People kept this game. Okay, and this was difficult to find. That's why I keep bringing up that story where I had to travel from where I live at in northern Palm Beach County. I had to go all the way to Dade County, Miami, to actually purchase this game back in those times when I used to live in the northern part of the Palm Beach County. I had to drive all the way to the Dade County, which is like 78 miles, like 80 miles. I had to drive for like an hour and a half to the one store in a Simon Mall in Miami, Electronic Boutique. You guys remember Electronic Boutique, EB Games, before it got bought and turned into a GameStop? I went to this store in Electronic Boutique, EB Games. I'm sure you guys remember EB Games. And I called the guy on the phone to the manager, store manager, said, listen, I know the game, it's, what was it, $60? Or was it $50? I don't know. But I said to him, look, I'm willing to pay $83 for it. I said, please, just hold it for me. You can keep that $30, whatever. I think the game was $50, and I gave him like an extra $33. I said, please hold it for me, man, and I'll come get it. And I did. I kept my word, and he kept his word, and he kept the game. But he says, if you're not here in 2 hours, I got to get rid of it. So I hauled ass. I got there, and then I gave him $83, and he sold the game for me, you know. And that's how much I cared about this game. That's how much I wanted this game. So that's when I say let this sink in, because I want you guys to understand what an impact this game had on me. And why, even to this day, I don't think there's any other game out there that can even come close to what Metal Gear did back in 1998.
Liquid Snake.
Liquid Snake. The man with the same code name as you.
Tell me what you know.
He fought in the Gulf War as a teenager, the youngest person in the SAS. His job was to track down and destroy mobile Scud missile launching platforms. You were there too, I believe. Didn't you infiltrate Western Iraq with a platoon of Green Berets?
I was just a kid myself back then.
The details are classified, but it seems that originally he penetrated the Middle East as a sleeper for the SIS.
He was a spy for the British Secret Intelligence Service?
But he never once showed his face in Century House. He was taken prisoner in Iraq, and after that there was no trace of him for several years. After you retired, he was rescued and became a member of Foxhound.
I thought that by the time I left, they were no longer using code names.
I don't know his real name. That information is so highly classified that even I can't look at it. Here's a photo of him. Pretty shocking, huh? His skin tone is different, but otherwise you two are exact duplicates.
I have a twin?
I don't know the details, but it seems so. That's why we really need you for this mission.
You're the only one who can beat him. Now that I've met you, I know. You've got something that he doesn't. I can see it in your eyes.
Why don't I find that thought more comforting?
And of course, you know, learning more about Liquid Snake and how we are being cloned from Big Boss, his father. There was so much in terms of story here that it was just, from the music score that was composed by Harry Gregson Williams to the sound and the atmosphere, everything was just top notch. And it almost had like that Michael Bay, The Rock, Michael Bay style of camera, the way Hideo Kojima was moving the camera in 3D rendering. This is before motion capture, before these higher polygons of textures. This is back in 1998. So let that sink in, just how big of a deal this game was back then. You know, there was nothing quite like it.
I'm going to swat down a couple of bothersome flies.
This is Snake. Colonel, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. What's the situation, Snake?
Looks like the elevator in the back is the only way up.
Just as I expected. You'll have to take the elevator to the surface. But make sure nobody sees you. If you need to, contact me by codec. The frequency is 140.85. When you want to use the codec, push the select button. When we need to contact you, the codec will beep. When you hear that noise, press the select button. The codec's receiver directly stimulates the small bones of your ear. No one but you will be able to hear it.
Got it. Okay, I'm ready to go.
You know, and the codec was a very interesting thing here. Like I said earlier, that I haven't seen this on any other games where you can use this communication codec PTT thing, whatever you want to call it. I call it codec, whatever fancy words you want to use for it. Walkie-talkie, all right, communication, and using this codec, talking to your colonel, talking to your scientist, talking to your doctor, Dr. Naomi. It was really a unique experience that like I said, I played a bunch of games. I played Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis, PC. I played Commodore, Spectrum ZX, even IBM PC games, Quake and whatnot. But this was something that I never have seen in a game before. The whole concept was brand new. Sneaking around, having different perspectives of the camera, talking to your characters, learning more about the characters. The voiceover was done really well. There was so much in this game that you were immersed. Like, you were like, oh my God, you know, I have never experienced anything like this. And I think this is why this game was so successful, because it was something original, something fresh.
There's an elevator there you can take up to the ground. You'll just have to wait for the elevator to come down. You'd better hide somewhere.
You see, like Colonel calling you on a codec, telling you, there's an elevator coming down, go hide. They always give you tips, like if you're stuck in a mission or if you're feeling that you're low on health and you don't realize you're low on health, Dr. Naomi will call you to let you know what you need to do. Or if you are stuck in a facility where there might be some radiation, Natasha will call you and let you know, hey, be careful, there's some radiation here. This is what you need to do. Don't fire your guns. Keep your gun safety on. I mean, everything was original and brand new. Like, I have never experienced anything like this in a video game till 1998, till this game came out. And this is where the game begins, pretty much, with the titles and everything. And seeing that title, Metal Gear Solid, Tactical Espionage Action, and then listening to that Harry Gregson Williams score, a great composer. That's a protege of Hans Zimmer. He came from Hans Zimmer school of thought, and it was great. It felt like a motion picture, honestly.
It's Snake. I'm in front of the disposal facility.
Excellent, Snake. Age hasn't slowed you down one bit.
How's that sneaking suit working out?
I'm nice and dry, but it's a little hard to move.
Bear with it. It's designed to prevent hypothermia. This is Alaska, you know.
Take it easy, I'm grateful. If it weren't for your suit and your shot, I would have turned into a popsicle out there.
An anti-freezing peptide, Snake. All of the genome soldiers in this exercise are using it.
I see. I'm relieved to hear that. Already tested, huh? By the way, how's the diversionary operation going?
2 F-16s just took off from Galena and are headed your way. The terrorist radar should have already picked them up.
Behind D. Colonel, what's a Russian gunship doing here?
I have no idea. But it looks like our little diversion got their attention. Now's your best chance to slip in unnoticed.
Let's talk about the graphics a little bit here. Another thing that was also very unique and cool is the fact that the graphics was something that I haven't experienced before in a game like this. This is all so very fresh and new to me. Everything felt organic about this game. And it's not just me that's saying this. Ask millions and millions of fans of this game, and they will tell you exactly everything I'm saying here. They felt it too. Okay, they felt this captivating. This game, even after 20 years, still stays with you. it was so captivating that you never forget it. You know, it's an instant classic. You know, when something is an instant classic, it means you never forget it. You know, you can't forget something like this type of a game that's always going to stay as one of my favorites, honestly. Now, while playing this game, as you all know, I got very obsessed with David Hayter voice. So I always try to mimic David Hayter voice, but I think I did okay job. You know, be careful, Snake. Like, the genome soldiers have a highly developed sense of hearing and vision due to their gene therapy. Make sure you don't let them see you. First, I want you to infiltrate the disposal site and look for the DARPA chief. The DARPA chief was injected by GPS transmitting nanomachines. He should appear on your radar. Get whatever information you can from his... See, like, now I'm talking a bit too fast, but, you know, I always try to... I got obsessed by just trying to mimic that David Hayter voice. Like right now, I'll do it right here. Got it. I'll call it if I'm feeling lonely. All right. I get it. Your frequency is 14096. All right. Mailing. That's okay. I can take care of myself. What do you mean I'm naked? I do have a suit on. Come on.
And then all my weapons are taken away. Imagine yourself put in that position.
Well, if you make it back in one piece, maybe I'll let you do a strip search on me.
I'll hold you to that, Doctor. By the way, sorry to disappoint you, but I did manage to smuggle out my smokes.
How did you do that?
In my stomach. Thanks to the shot you gave me that suppressed my stomach acids.
Cigarettes? How are those going to help you?
You never know.
If you want to get in, there's the front door. It's the fastest way, but there's too much risk of being spotted by the enemy.
I can't just knock on the door and ask them to let me in. There's one sentry on the left and one on the right. They're armed with 5.56ers and pineapples.
What about the air duct near the door? There should also be a duct on the second floor.
I can't see it from here.
I'll let you decide the best COA. I'm counting on you, Snake.
And then again, all these gadgets using the goggles to zoom in, zoom out, to switch between a third person to a first person perspective while you zooming in, zooming out, looking at certain things. All of this was fresh and new. You know what I mean? The ability for you to do this, to have different perspective of the cameras, all of these gadgets that you can use on your possession, the radar, everything was really implemented nicely. Avoiding the cameras and the AI, like, you know, these enemies are very smart. They will like follow your footsteps. They will radio in if something is wrong. Just the intelligence of the AI of these of the enemy was not dumb. Was very smart, and you can tell that Hideo Kojima really put all this effort to really make sure that this is something that it's going to be an experience, an unforgettable storytelling, gigantic, big experience, and that's exactly what we got. With the first Metal Gear. Of course, Sons of Liberty came in 2001. And to me, Sons of Liberty was like the most anticipated sequel ever. And I'll talk about that on my probably part 3, episode 3 of my nostalgia gaming commentary. Now here we're gonna bump into a DARPA chief. We're also gonna see Meryl here. This was a cool thing. When you go through these air ducts, air conditioning ducts, you get to see. Again, you get called over here by this guy, McDonald Miller. McDonald Miller. See, this is how Hideo Kojima mind works. You know, there's always these mystery, secret characters like Deep Throat, Miller, McDonald Miller, but then you find out who these characters are later on. You know, that's the beauty and the mind of Hideo Kojima and how he constructs the storytelling.
I've lived in Alaska longer than you, so call me if you have any questions about the flora or fauna out here. My frequency is 141.80.
And then here we see the DARPA chief. They're talking about DARPA chief and which cell he's on. So you can also overhear the conversation and listen to what the other soldiers are saying. That's another cool thing. Like, you can actually listen to the soldiers and what they're saying in their conversation. And also, this was our first interaction seeing Meryl, which is Colonel's niece. That's where Snake bumped into her here as well. But I gotta tell you, 21 years ago, 22 years ago, looking back into this game and looking at the graphics, it still holds up. And this is why I'm so critical of today's developers. And the reason I'm critical of today's developers, because I want today's developers to bring some fresh, new IP, some new ideas, some fresh new ideas like this, you know. This is what it's all about, guys. This is why we are gamers, because we're always striving for something new, fresh idea, fresh new stories, something that's going to captivate me. I don't mind spending $60. Hell, I don't even mind spending $150 if it's going to be that $150 experience that I'm not going to forget.
Drop down. Use the elevator to change floors. There should be a cargo elevator that you can take down somewhere around there. Try to find it.
You know, playing this game was very challenging, you know, because you constantly have to play hide and seek, maneuver tactically, sneak. It's a sneak mission, basically. You have to sneak. This is not one of those type of games where you just go gung-ho. You really have to, you can't go out gun blazing. You have to really use your brain. You have to think. You have to strategize. And it took a lot of patience. It took a lot of challenge. This was a very challenging game, but that's what made it even more appealing, is because of its challenge. And you get a reward when you beat all these bosses. When you beat them, there's a certain sense of challenge that you accomplish something, and there's a reward. And reward is you get to learn more about these characters. You get to learn more about this Metal Gear universe and the backstory of the whole thing. And that's what kept you playing this game. That's what kept you immersed into this game. Especially when we meet DARPA Chief, you know, and DARPA Chief starts telling us a little bit about what's going on with the liquid and how he recruited all of these individuals to be part of his unit. And then later on, we find out that DARPA chief was being used as a smokescreen to get to the Solid Snake. You know, but I mean, all of this stuff, everything that was put into this game was better than any movie that I have seen out there, honestly. The way Hideo Kojima, you know, implemented all of this was way better than any other movie that I have seen since then. You know, no, sure, there's some great movies out there, but this was done so well, and this was something so fresh and so new that no one has ever experienced anything like this on a console, on a video game. And that's why I say Hideo Kojima and Sony, they revolutionized, they almost like evolution, they progressed and they pushed the new standards for the video games. Now here we're going to see Meryl Lynn, Colonel's niece. She's doing some push-ups or sit-ups or something like that. And then we're going to bump into DARPA Chief, and we're going to listen to the conversation. It's a long, long conversation of DARPA Chief, but it's a very, very interesting conversation. Some people complain that Hideo Kojima cutscenes are a bit long, but I'm like, hello, you know, that's the whole idea of the Metal Gear. It's for you to learn. It's a very story-driven game, okay? And that's why you have to listen to conversations, because that's how you learn about the DARPA chief. That's how you learn and have better understanding about all of these characters, okay, and the storyline. It was a necessary thing. Bottom line. So let's listen to a DARPA chief conversation here a little bit. All right, here we go.
Who's that?
I'm here to save you. You're the DARPA chief, Donald Anderson, right?
You here to save me, huh? What's your outfit?
I'm the pawn they sent here to save your worthless butt.
Really? It's true. You don't look like one of them. In that case, hurry up and get me out of here.
Slow down. Don't worry. First, I want some information about the terrorists.
The terrorists?
Do they really have the ability to launch a nuke?
What are you talking about?
The terrorists are threatening the White House. They say if they don't accede to their demands, they'll launch a nuclear weapon.
Sweet Jesus.
Is it possible?
It's possible. They could launch a nuke.
How do they plan to launch? I thought this place was just for keeping the dismantled warheads. They shouldn't have access to a missile.
What I'm about to tell you is classified information. Okay? We were conducting exercises with a new type of experimental weapon. A weapon that will change the world.
What?
A weapon with the ability to launch a nuclear attack from any place on the face of the Earth. A nuclear-equipped walking battle tank.
Metal Gear. It can't be.
You knew? Metal Gear is one of the most secret black projects. How did you know that?
We've had a couple of run-ins in the past. So that's the reason you were here at this disposal site?
Why else would I come to a god-forsaken place like this?
I had heard the Metal Gear project was scrapped.
On the contrary, it's grown into a huge joint project between ArmsTech and ourselves. We were going to use this exercise as raw data and then proceed to mass production. If it hadn't been for the revolution.
Revolution?
Rex has fallen into the hands of terrorists.
Rex?
Metal Gear Rex. The code name for the new Metal Gear prototype. They're probably already finished arming the warhead they plan to use with Rex. These guys are pros. They're all experienced in handling and equipping weapons.
Hey! Shut up in there, will ya?
But I thought that all nuclear warheads were equipped with safety measures. Some kind of detonation code that you have to input.
Oh, you mean PAL? Yes, of course, there is a PAL. It's set up so that you need to input 2 different passwords in order to launch the device.
There are 2 passwords?
Yes, Baker knows one, and I know one.
Baker? The president of Arms Tech?
That's right. Each of us needs to input our password, or there can be no launch. But they found out my password.
You talked?
Psycho Mantis can read people's minds.
And I want to comment here really quick. You know, like I mentioned earlier in this game, even though this is a fictional setting, it's a fictional characters, but the stuff that's inside the game, looking at the Armtex dealers, you know, the private companies like I mentioned earlier, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Bigelow, all of these private companies, even SpaceX, for crying out loud, all of these private contractors are in with DARPA, with the defense system. So everything that Hideo Kojima implemented here is actually something that exists. Okay, there is a defense black budget that's like billions and billions, trillions and trillions of dollars that goes into it to create all of these new technologies with all of these private subcontractors like Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman. Okay, so everything that Hideo Kojima implemented here, it's something that already existed. All of these projects, they're existing. So everything here, but you know, when you are a gamer, you don't know too much about how the government works, how the military works, and how it's being split, obviously, and how the Pentagon works. So you don't know all of this stuff, if it's true or not. But once you get older, you learn about all of these things, especially if you're in the military. You learn about, oh shit, everything that they said here in this game. Actually, it's plausible. Not just is it plausible, not only is it plausible, but it actually exists. You know, the subdivisions, the black budget, these projects, they're being used on these facilities like S4, Area 51, whatnot. All of these bases up in Ohio and whatnot. These are all subcontractors. They're working for the government and DARPA to create these technologies. You know, all of these technologies you see in the Air Force, the military, all of this stuff. All right. So let's continue. I just wanted to implement that because this shows you just how much Hideo Kojima was privy to the information when he was making this this game back then.
Hey, what happened?
Dead.
Naomi, the chief. What happened?
I don't know. It looked like a heart attack, but...
A heart attack? No. Colonel, are you hiding something from me?
Absolutely not. Snake, you've got to understand. This op is security level red.
You need the highest security clearance to get access to the complete file.
You want me to believe that you're in charge of this op, but you don't have complete access to the file?
I told you, the Secretary of Defense is in operational control. I'm just here as your support. Snake, we don't have time to debate. Get out of there and find President Baker.
Now, in terms of graphics again, even to this day, I look at this game, as I'm looking at it right now, even to this day, I say, wow, this was back then, 21 years ago, and I'm like, no wonder it was a big deal back then, because we haven't seen anything like this previously. Like the camera angle, everything was really dynamic and smooth. And of course, here we are, Meryl. We get introduced to Meryl here. We're gonna find out pretty soon.
No, you're not. Don't move!
Is this the first time you ever pointed a gun at a person? Your hands are shaking. Can you shoot me, rookie?
Careful. I'm no rookie.
Liar. That nervous glance, that scared look in your eyes. They're rookie's eyes if I ever saw them. You've never shot a person, am I right?
You talk too much.
You haven't even taken the safety off, rookie.
I told you I'm no rookie!
You're not one of them, are you?
Open that door. You've got a card, don't you?
Why?
So we can get the hell out of here!
Looks like we'll be a little delayed. What are you doing? Don't think! Shoot! What are you waiting for? Shoot!
And, you know, meeting the Meryl, and then here's another thing. It's the characters. You know, I played a bunch of other games. I played truckload of games in the past, but no other game captivated me where I cared about these characters. You know, here's the thing about Hideo Kojima games. His characters in the game, you care about them. You know, you have feelings about them. You invest so much into these characters that you care about what happens to these characters. And that's another thing that also was introduced with Hideo Kojima and Metal Gear, where I think it's very important that you have characters you care about. I don't care if you make super realistic looking game, and if that game doesn't have the characters that I care about, you're not gonna care. So there's that booty shot. So, you know what I mean? This was something that was also another reason why I really got so introduced into this game, and why I so much loved this game and the characters and the universe that he created.
I have a good idea.
You know, if anyone should be able to play Psycho Mantis, I think Tom Hardy would be able to do it with that mask. I want you to die. I was wondering what's going to break first. Your spirit or your money. You know, it's like, I honestly think Tom Hardy should play Psycho Mantis if they ever decide to create Metal Gear movie. There's no question that it should be directed by Hideo Kojima, obviously. David Hayter should be a producer in there as well. But in terms of Psycho Mantis, I think Tom Hardy should play Psycho Mantis. And in terms of Solid Snake, I think Hugh Jackman was just perfect. I mean, anyone, ask anybody, they'll tell you who should play Solid Snake. Hugh Jackman. He has that deep voice that he can do, that Australian deep voice he can do. And David Hayter, it's a good friend with Hugh Jackman. They work together on the X-Men. So I think if this ever happens, I could see that being something that I could easily see Metal Gear be like a movie that the fans can appreciate. But again, that's just my wishful thinking. Who knows what's going to happen, or if we're ever going to see a Metal Gear movie, you know. But once Hideo Kojima said, when he was asked about this, he said that to him, the Metal Gear was meant to live in a video game universe. Metal Gear wasn't meant to be in a movie universe. And I happen to agree on that. Okay, because Metal Gear is inspired by some of these movies. Movies like Escape from New York. Movies like Rambo. Was inspired by all of these movies, you know. So Hideo Kojima was inspired by all these movies. When you look at Snake Plissken, Kurt Russell character, well, that's who the Solid Snake really is. It's the inspiration of that character from John Carpenter's Escape from New York. When you look at Campbell, Colonel Campbell, it's inspiration from Rambo, First Blood, the colonel that was played in that movie. And when you look at Ocelot Revolver, it's someone like Lee Von Cleef, who played in The Escape from New York. By the way, I love that movie. Escape from New York is one of my favorites. So Hideo Kojima, he openly said he was inspired by all these movies, you know. But I agree, Metal Gear should only exist in video games. That's what I think. So now we're going to see arms tech dealer Baker, Chief Baker. So let's listen to it. This is a long first we need to blow. I remember, like, you have to go ahead and blow up the these dry walls, and then our first encounter is going to be three things. This is where the game, on the second act, it becomes very, very interesting. Not only do we get introduced to Shalashashka, Ocelot Revolver, but at the same time we get introduced to this mysterious ninja, okay? And the story behind Mysterious Ninja and why is he so significant, and also the technology of nanotechnology that was used to create that ninja. Nanosuit technology and all that. So there was so much in this game, especially when we get to the Emmerich. You know, Emmerich, the scientist, and then we learn about him. There's the characters that Hideo Kojima created in this game are so rich. And this is why everyone loved this game so much, including me, including millions of people out there. Maybe it's 1 billion of gamers that truly appreciate this. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe 500,000. Maybe 500 million. 500. Let's say 500 million gamers worldwide love this game, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did. So here we're going to go ahead and meet with encounter arms tech dealer Baker, and of course Shalashashka, Ocelot Revolver. So let's listen.
Am I too late? He's alive. You're the Arms Tech president, Kenneth Baker, right? Don't worry. I'm here to save you.
No, don't touch it!
C4.
Right. Touch that wire, and the C4 will blow up along with the old man. So you're the one that the boss keeps talking about.
And you?
Special Operations Foxhound. Revolver Ocelot. I've been waiting for you, Solid Snake. Now we'll see if the man can live up to the legend. This is the greatest handgun ever made. The Colt Single Action Army. 6 bullets, more than enough to kill anything that moves. Now I'll show you why they call me Revolver.
Sorry about that, guys. I accidentally hit my microphone on the mute, so I apologize about that. What I wanted to say here is that to me, I haven't seen anything like this. And I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to say something that this, to me, it's the greatest game ever created. There's nothing else out there 21 years ago, 23 years ago that I have seen that was so original and so rich with all the characters. Even The Last of Us cannot touch this game. Even the God of War cannot touch this game. I'm sorry, but there's so much. There's so much in this game that no other game can ever touch here. And I really do mean that, guys. Since 1998, I have yet to see a game that is rich and original. Granted, The Witcher 3 is great in all of these games. I'm not trying to take anything away from these games. But all of these games were inspired one way or another by other games. This was original. This was something that has never been seen before. I want you guys to understand this. When Hideo Kojima created this, he was the first. This was the first game on a console. Even on a PC, we didn't have something that was close to this. And a lot of PC gamers got upset. This was something that revolutionized a gaming on a console as we know it. And it is the greatest game ever created, in my opinion. Remember, in my opinion. Here comes that ninja, that secret ninja that we get to learn about a little bit more in the game. So when I say that this is the greatest game ever made, I'm talking from my point of view. Okay, I want you to understand this is coming from my point of view. All right, I'm not saying this to to tell everybody you need to agree with my statement. You can disagree with my statement, okay? You got your opinion. Maybe for you it's a Final Fantasy. Maybe for you it's a Resident Evil. But for me, personally, there's nothing that came close to what Metal Gear Solid tactical espionage action and Hideo Kojima created in 1998. With the storyline, with the new type of graphics, the new dynamic of the gameplay, there was nothing quite like it. Nothing. When this thing came out. This was original and fresh.
What about yours?
Oh, I get it. Jim sent you. You're from the Pentagon.
Answer my question. What about your code? There's no time.
I talked.
What? Now the terrorists have both codes and can launch any time.
It's not like I didn't fight. I managed to resist Psycho Mantis's mind probe.
He couldn't read you? How'd you do it?
Surgical implants in my brain.
Surgical implants?
Kind of like a psychic insulation. Everyone who knows these top secret codes has it.
Even the DARPA chief?
Of course.
But the DARPA chief said Mantis got his code by reading his mind.
Are you sure you heard him right?
Yeah, I'm sure. In that case, how did they get your code?
I never had any training on how to resist torture.
It looks like he had some fun with you, all right.
Oh, he's not human. I tell you, he loved every second of it.
What happened to your arm?
He broke it.
Looks like you're more than even now. His was sliced off.
Ha, you're a funny man. So the DARPA chief, is he okay?
Dead.
What? Can't be. No, that's not what you promised, Jim. Now you want to shut me up?
Calm down. What's wrong with you? I just told you I was here to save you. I didn't kill the DARPA chief. He had a heart attack or something.
A heart attack? Oh, don't be a fool.
Anyway, the terrorists have both codes now.
Those boys are totally insane. They wouldn't hesitate to launch.
I agree, but what do they really want?
Oh, who knows? Maybe they're like us in the arms industry, always looking forward to the next good war.
Well, I'm not gonna let these maniacs start a war today. You still have the card keys?
Card keys?
To override the detonation code. I heard you had them.
No, not anymore.
What? Who does then? Not the terrorists?
No, that woman.
Woman? Who?
A soldier that was thrown in prison along with me.
A female soldier, it must be.
She said she had just joined up as a new recruit. They threw her in prison because she refused to take part in the rebellion.
A new recruit? Could that be the Colonel's niece?
I gave her the key. Looks like she managed to break out of here, though. I hope she's okay.
I'm sure she is. She's green, but as tough as they come. But how did you know she escaped?
I was in contact with her by codec. Until I was tied up here, that is.
Codec?
Yes, she stole it from the guard. If she still has it, you should be able to contact her.
I'm sure she still has it. What frequency was she at?
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, it's... Oh, sorry. I forgot.
Damn!
Oh, that's right. It should be on the back of the CD case. Try to contact her.
I'll contact her right away. But tell me, if this doesn't work, is there some other way to prevent the missile launch?
You need to find Hal Emmerich, one of my employees.
Who's that?
The team leader of the Metal Gear Rex project. A genius at engineering, but a little bit of an oddball. If there's anyone who can figure out how to stop Metal Gear from launching, it's him.
What if he can't come up with anything?
You'll have to destroy it. Emmerich knows how to destroy Metal Gear.
Where is this Emmerich?
Well, he's probably being held somewhere in the nuclear warhead storage building. It's north from here. That's where he worked.
I understand, but why Metal Gear? The nuclear age ended with the turn of the millennium.
Oh, you're wrong. The threat of nuclear war isn't gone. In fact, it's greater than it's ever been. The amount of spent nuclear fuel and plutonium is increasing even today. Listen, have you ever seen a warehouse full of nuclear material?
No.
Drums and drums of nuclear waste stacked this high, as far as you can see. Because there's still no real way to dispose of the stuff.
So they just close the lid and try to pretend like it'll go away?
Essentially, yes. And they're not even doing a good job of storing it. Many of the drums are corroded, with nuclear waste seeping out of them.
Unbelievable.
Not only that, but several pounds of muff are reported every year.
Muff?
It stands for material unaccounted for. It proves that there's a large and well-organized black market in nuclear materials. Furthermore, since the end of the Cold War, Russian nuclear engineers in particular are out of work with no way to turn. In other words, there's plenty of available nuclear material and scientists for making a bomb. We live in an age when any small country can have a nuclear weapons program.
What about the other superpowers?
Russia and China still maintain a significant nuclear presence. Complete nuclear disarmament is an impossibility. To maintain our own policy of deterrence, we need a weapon of overwhelming power.
You mean Metal Gear?
Yes. You know our industry suffered quite a blow as a result of the cuts in military budgets due to this so-called peace.
I remember hearing a lot about mergers and takeovers among the big weapons makers.
Yes, and after my company lost their bid to produce the Air Force's next line of fighter jet, the Metal Gear system was our last ace in the hole. That's why we pushed to have...
And of course, another great implementation into Metal Gear was also this reality check that Hideo Kojima, even though this is a fictional world, it's a fictional, obviously, game, none of these characters actually exist, but the concept behind that about the nuclear weapons and just how much of a threat it poses to the world, you know, this game really touched on that, you know. And I think Hideo Kojima was, well, not just Hideo Kojima, but any Japanese out there whose grandpa lived through the World War II definitely understands the significance of such a powerful weapons. Because as you all know, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, now not only did we drop one bomb, but two bombs, atomic bombs. And I think Hideo Kojima always was, you know, inflicted by that we can't ever allow anything like this to happen ever again, you know. To have such powerful weapons and to be in possession of the countries, to be in development, that's why Hideo Kojima always sends the message, even with this game, is just how important it is to get rid of these powerful worldwide destruction weapons. What they are, they're a mass destruction, the end-of-life kind of weapons, you know. They are end-of-life weapons, and I think Hideo Kojima really wanted to implement that, like in this conversation with the arm tech dealer Baker, and then we see him here having a heart attack. You know, I think that was the message behind this Metal Gear and Shadow Moses, is that even though it's a fictional world, it's a fictional characters, they don't exist, it's a sci-fi fictional characters, but the concept behind it of these subcontractors and these scientists and these private sectors working on these weapons technologies that will not benefit the future of the world, and they're only going to be more destructive.
Heart attack, but...
Some kind of poison?
Well, there are lots of drugs that can cause a heart attack in large doses. For example, potassium chloride or dioxides, but we won't be able to tell without doing an autopsy.
Damn!
Snake, I want you and Meryl to work together.
Can I trust her?
More than you can trust me. Get in contact with her.
Snake, there's a lot of electrical interference coming from there. It should be okay if you do burst transmission like us, but normal transmission is probably impossible. Try moving away from that area.
Snake, get a hold of yourself.
Naomi, what the hell was that ninja thing? A member of Foxhound?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes, we have no one like that in our unit.
Is that right?
Snake, I'm counting on you.
And of course, another cool thing was trying to figure out what was the code, what was the codec frequency for the Meryl. And I didn't get it, like what he meant when he says, look in the back of, maybe on your CD jacket. I was like, what is he talking about, CD jacket? He's talking about the manual. And then, long and behold, I looked at my CD, my Metal Gear CD jacket, my Metal Gear CD box, and I look at the back of the box where the description is and everything, and then there was the frequency right there, right here.
I was really impressed with the way you busted yourself out of there.
The one from the prison?
You're the Colonel's niece, Meryl, right?
No, it's not him. Just exactly who are you?
I'm the fool that your uncle sent all alone into the middle of this whole mess.
You came by yourself? You think you're some kind of one-man army?
I don't need lectures. You're just like your uncle, you know?
How do you know my uncle?
We go way back.
What's your name?
My name's not important.
Aha. Could you be Snake? Are you Solid Snake?
That's what some people call me.
The legendary Solid Snake? You? Sorry about before. I wasn't sure if you were one of the good guys.
But I knew you were.
How?
It's your eyes.
My eyes?
They're not soldiers' eyes.
And they're rookies' eyes, right?
No, they're beautiful, compassionate eyes.
Oh, just what I'd expect from the legendary Solid Snake. You trying to sweep me off my feet?
Don't worry, you'll land back on them once you meet me. The reality is no match for the legend, I'm afraid.
Oh, I don't believe that.
Why did you look so surprised when you saw my face?
Because you look just like him.
You mean the terrorist leader, Liquid Snake?
Yeah, you know him? You're not brothers, are you?
I have no family.
So what's the deal then?
Who knows? Why don't you ask him? But first I want some information. You were involved in this exercise from the beginning. What exactly happened here?
I'm sorry. I was captured along with President Baker right after the terrorist attack.
That's okay. But what is this place? I don't think it's just a nuclear weapons disposal facility.
Boy, oh boy, it's just like them. Nobody told you anything, did they? Okay, you see, this place isn't really for disposing nuclear weapons. This base is owned and operated by a dummy corporation of arms tech.
This is a civilian base?
Right, for the development of Metal Gear.
Colonel.
Foxhound and the Next Generation Special Forces were called here for the test launching of a dummy nuclear warhead.
Why Foxhound?
Because they're a special ops group used to handling top-secret missions. They figured they could help keep it all hush-hush.
But we must have fired nuclear warheads before. Why just this time?
I heard it was because this was to be a final test before the formal adoption of the Metal Gear program. Well, that's what I heard anyway.
Sounds kind of fishy. So what do you think the terrorists want?
Sorry. I'm not sure. I was captured with President Baker right after the revolt started.
Oh yeah, that's when he gave you the detonation code override keys, right?
That's right.
Amazing you were able to keep him hidden from the guards.
Well, women have more hiding places than men. Anyway, you met Baker, huh? How's he holding up?
He's dead.
What?
Heart attack. Same as the DARPA chief.
The chief died from a heart attack too?
Yeah. Was either of them sick or anything?
No, not that I heard of.
Well, I don't believe in coincidences. Something funny's going on.
Sounds like it, but I have no idea what.
Me neither. Yet. Do you know the person who designed Metal Gear?
You mean Dr. Emmerich?
Yes. Is he still alive?
Probably. He should be in the research lab in the second floor basement of the nuclear warhead storage building to the north.
Second floor basement?
Yeah, that's where his lab is. I think they're forcing him to work on the nuclear launching program.
So they'll need him alive until that's done anyway.
Then we better do something before he finishes.
You're right. In case we can't override the detonation code in time, I need to ask him how to destroy Metal Gear.
You plan to take that thing on by yourself, Snake?
It won't be the first time.
Ah.
What's the best way to get to the building where the doctor's being held?
There's a cargo door on the first floor of this building that leads to the north.
What's the security level of the door there?
5. But it's okay. I've got a level 5 card.
Well, I've got to go save the doctor. You should go.
I'm going with you.
No way. You're still too green. I want you to hide somewhere.
I'm not green.
Oh, yes you are. You pause for just 1 second in front of your enemy and it's all over. Good luck doesn't last forever.
I don't know what happened. I just couldn't pull the trigger right away. I never had any problems in training, but when I thought about my bullets tearing through those soldiers' bodies, I hesitated.
Shooting at targets and shooting at living, breathing people are different.
Ever since I was a little girl, I always dreamed about being a soldier. Every day of my life, I've trained my mind and body for the one day when I could finally see some real action, and now...
So what now? You want to quit?
I can't quit. I can't allow myself to quit now.
Listen, Meryl, everybody feels sick the first time they kill someone. Unfortunately, killing is one of those things that gets easier the more you do it. In a war, all of mankind's worst emotions, worst traits come out. It's easy to forget what a sin is in the middle of a battlefield.
But this isn't a war. It's a terrorist action.
You're just a little jumpy from the combat high. The adrenaline in your bloodstream is starting to thin out. Just take it easy.
But I learned all about combat high at the academy.
We'll talk about it later. For now, just think about keeping yourself alive.
If I get out of here alive, I'll think about that other stuff.
Okay. Let me try to say this another way. Stay the hell out of my way.
You're a real bastard. Just like my uncle said.
Huh. I told you. The real me is no match for the legend.
It looks like you were right. Okay, Snake. I'll be a good girl.
We'll link up after I grab the doctor. Then we'll take care of the detonation code override.
Gotcha. But listen, I know this area better than you. Call me if you have any questions.
Be careful, okay?
After I open up the cargo door, I'll contact you.
And you know, this is just one segment of why this game it's so iconic and popular. And even after 21 years later, after 2 decades, or maybe longer, let's say 23 years, this game still, even after me watching it right now, it still gives me that same chills, same goosebumps, gives me that same feeling that everybody else felt. And this is the mastermind of Hideo Kojima. You know, and the way he creates games. Here's someone that truly has a passion. This is why I love Hideo Kojima. Because here's somebody who truly has a passion and cares about project, the art of the project, the storytelling, the experience, above all, the emotion, the experience. And he definitely balances all of those elements inside the this game. And you got to remember, this is 23 years ago, right? This was a long time ago. Back then, nothing like this was experienced. And this is why it was so significant to be able to play something like this. I haven't seen or experienced anything like this before, like with Nintendo 64. Sure, Zelda was great, but it wasn't as nowhere as close as this, obviously. GoldenEye was great. All of those games were good for what they are. But this was on a whole new level. This was almost like a Game of Thrones. Think of it like a Game of Thrones, like Godfather. Like it was big. It was like a juggernaut of something that we haven't seen before, something that we haven't experienced before. And this is why on this episode 2, I went with 2 hours instead of me doing a 1 hour. Because to me, the episode 2 here, it's 2 hours because I felt that I need to do something special. Because in 1 hour, I felt like it's not enough for me to tell you how I feel about this game. This is a very special game, so I'm doing 2 hours special for this episode 2 of Nostalgia Gaming Commentary. Normally, I just do 1 hour, and Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty will be 1 hour, maybe 10 minutes. Episode 3, I'll talk about the why Metal Gear Solid. You can see why everyone was so anticipating the sequel for this game. This first one was so overwhelmingly popular that people were counting the days on when they're going to be able to get their hands on the sequel. And I can easily say back then in 2000, especially when PlayStation 2 was released, the expectation, the hype was beyond anything else. Like, I just simply couldn't wait to get my hands on the Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. You know, it was... But I'll talk about that on my episode 3. You know, I'll talk about that.
With infrared sensors. You probably can't see them with your naked eyes, but there are infrared beams coming out of that wall. Touch any one of them and the doors will seal off and the place will be flooded with poison gas. Somehow you've got to get through without setting off those sensors.
And of course, there were so many characters, you know, Raven. We get introduced to Raven here as well. Then we get introduced to Emmerich. And then that ninja. We'll learn more about the ninja. And Fox Die. Or is it Fox Die? I think it was Fox Die. And the nano suits and nanotechnology. And all of these things, you know. If you played, okay, let me say this. If you played every single Metal Gear game and you understand the storyline and you connect all the dots, you totally understand how carefully Hideo Kojima constructed these games. There's nothing that's being said in these games that Hideo Kojima created that doesn't have a point. Everything has a point and a connection. Everything is connected with each other. Okay, everything has a reason. You know, the reason they show this character, there's a reason for it. The reason they mention this or that, there's a reason for it. That's preparing you for another sequel or another chapter. So everything was so uniquely created that even to this day, I just can't. Look, every single one of these games got masterpiece score. Even Metal Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Pain got a masterpiece score, okay? But for me, personally, the original Metal Gear, the first Metal Gear, it's what got me into PlayStation. It honestly, like I told you in the beginning, this is the game that really got me into Sony, into PlayStation, and this is the one game that really risen that bar, okay? Just like Resident Evil risen that bar, the Capcom for survival horror games. So the Hideo Kojima risen the bar here, okay? And then here we see the introduction of the Deep Throat, who the Deep Throat is. But you'll learn about the Deep Throat later on when you play all these games. You know, everything becomes more clear, you know. And that's the beauty of the Metal Gear universe and the Metal Gear games, is everything will make sense to you if you play every and each game. Once you truly, it's like David Hayter said, once you truly connect the dots and you understand the universe, then you totally have the bigger picture and you can say, wow, now I understand how Hideo Kojima mind works. And Death Stranding, guys, wait till that comes out. I know that Hideo Kojima, what he's showing you right now, it's nothing. And that's how the trailer is supposed to be. Don't show too much. Just keep you guessing and keep you curious. The trailer, it's there to keep you curious. The trailer, it's not there to tell you everything. The trailer is there to keep you interested. This looks interesting. What's going on over here? What the hell is that all about? You know, the trailer, it's like a explorer. Like, oh, I need to explore this movie. Like, what is this about? You know? So what you saw on E3, Kojima didn't show you nothing. In my honest opinion, I don't think he showed you diddly nothing. When the game gets released, when you finally play the game, hopefully next year or 2020, whenever it comes out, take your time, Mr. Kojima. You know it's going to be a masterpiece of an experience. And it's going to be one of those games that you're going to remember. That's going to stay with you, just like every other game he created stays with you. This is the difference between Hideo Kojima and other developers. When Hideo Kojima makes a game, it's an experience that stays with you and you don't forget it. Okay? Splinter Cell, I can easily forget Splinter Cell. I mean, even God of War I can forget. Even The Last of Us I can forget, okay, to some extent. But his games, with all these rich characters and a storyline, it is really almost impossible to forget. That's the kind of impact that his storytelling and his games have onto a gamers like me, you know. So it's been 2 hours. Hopefully you guys enjoy this 2 hours. It's a special episode, episode 2. I wanted to do it 2 hours. I can do endless of hours talking about this game. You know, I think I covered pretty much everything. What got me into Sony PlayStation and what got me into this game and why I love this game so much. I talked about Kojima. I talked about my experience. And the whole point of these videos is for me, since I'm 40 years old, since I played all of these consoles and all of these games, to walk you down the memory lane for some of you who are in your mid-teens and your later teen ages between 15 and 18, to walk you down the memory lane and show you what gaming was all about and how gaming has evolved to this point, to where we are right now. And I think it's really important not to forget that. I think it's really important for us to remember these games and where it all started and how it all begun. You know, you need to have some understanding of gaming history before you can actually call yourself a gamer. You need to understand how the whole thing started. And that's why I have created this new video show. where I'm sitting here and the green screen behind me, and we're watching the walkthrough. Obviously, this walkthrough is not my walkthrough, it's somebody else's walkthrough, but I'm just kind of commentating like a, you ever seen that show, Sci-Fi Theater 3000, where you would have people watching, watching the movie, then commentate on the movie. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm watching this walkthrough in this game, and I'm telling you my experience with these games, especially this one. This is one of my favorite, and that's why I spent 2 hours special on this one, because it's a very, very unique, special game, especially for me. And even right now, while I'm still watching it, it still brings back the memories. It just reminds me just how big of an impact this game had on me all these years. I mean, even after 23 years, I think it's 23 years, right? Or 20 years, 2 decades. Let's just say circa 2 decades. Even after 2 decades, this game, the kind of impact it had on me, okay? When this game was released, I was, 20 years old, and I was going to college, private college, Art Institute, video production. And I remember, like I told you in the beginning of the video, I had $600 in my pocket. I walked into a Target store, and I was looking to buy some accessories and some Nintendo 64 games and some Sega Saturn games, if they were still available or not. But mainly Nintendo 64 games I was looking for, right? And then I told you, I saw Sony. I saw this. I was like, what? You guys have a Sony? The Sony is actually making a console? I was kind of laughing at first, but then once the guy told me, he says, hey man, this console, this is the last one in stock. If you don't buy it now, I don't know when we're going to get the next shipment. So I bought it, and there was a demo disc inside, and this was the first game I tried. Tactical espionage action, Metal Gear Solid. And I fell in love with this game. And of course, after that, man, I barely touched my Nintendo 64. It was just simply Sony. Like every other game, it was Sony. Resident Evil 2. I was just overwhelmed by all of these games that Sony has implemented throughout years of 1998, 1999. Just in those 2 years alone, 1998 and 1999, the amount of games they produced was just mind-boggling. And of course, 2000, PlayStation 2, I pre-ordered it, man. I pre-ordered it immediately. I went to my electronic boutique, EB store, and I said, hey, can I pre-order now? Is it yes? Boom. Actually, there was a line to pre-order, and I was on a 12th. I was the 12th person online waiting for like 45 minutes just to make a pre-order. And that was another experience altogether. So some people say, do I sound like a Sony fanboy? Well, that's impossible. I sure admire Sony and I appreciate Sony for all these great experiences that they have brought to me and millions of others of gamers. But as you all know, I'm not a fanboy. I play every game. I told you. From 1980s, Spectrum ZX, Commodore 64, Amiga, bunch of different Ataris, Sega, Genesis, Sega, Saturn, Dreamcast, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, SNES, Nintendo 64, GameCube, the list goes on and on and on. PC, IBM, Xbox, original Xbox, 360, PlayStation 3, PlayStation, I mean, 4. I have played it all. So it's impossible for me to be a fanboy. Okay? So there you have it. It's been 2 hours. Hopefully you guys like this episode too. Stay tuned for the episode 3. Episode 3, we're going to cover the anticipated sequel for Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. That's probably going to be late tomorrow night. I'm going to try to do that late tomorrow night and talk about the Sons of Liberty. I'm going to try to do it like in 1 hour and maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, 1 hour and 15 minutes. So let me know if you guys like this. Let me know if you love... this is one occasion that I did special for 2 hours. But let me know if you guys love what I'm doing here. Putting the new introduction into this new thing called Nostalgia Gaming Commentary. So if you guys like this, send me some recommendations of what other games that are dear to you would you like me to talk about and give you my take on it and experience on it. So let me know. All right, guys. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the episode 3. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, Colonel. We need to end this video. It's too long. Thank you, Mr. 4K Upscaler, for making it 2 hours and 1 minute and some seconds. Take care. This is Snake signing out. Cheers.